hope that we, when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
Due to the broad and ironclad protections of the First Amendment, a charge of sedition against a U.S. citizen is extremely rare. Nevertheless, sedition remains a crime in the United States under U.S. Code 2384, a federal statute that punishes seditious conspiracy, and 18 U.S. Code 2385, which outlaws advocating the overthrow of the federal government by force. Generally, a person may be punished for sedition only when he or she makes statements that create a clear and present danger to rights that the government may lawfully protect. A person found guilty of seditious conspiracy or advocating the overthrow of the government may be fined and sentenced to up to 20 years in prison. States also maintain laws that punish similar advocacy and conspiracy against the state government. Brooklyn-born Palestinian-American activist Linda Sarsour is walking a tightrope as she tests those federal statutes.
When we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
Do you defend what she said about this president and really about this country in that soundbite?
You know, jihad is an Arabic word mentioned both in the Quran and the Bible. Bridget, she is from Lebanon, she knows Arabic, and she knows this word is mentioned also in the Bible. If you leave it for us, jihad means to be a better person, more honest, more truthful, and more trustworthy. But of course, if you leave this jihad for ISIS, leave the Quran for ISIS or Bible for KKK, they have different interpretation of it.
Linda Sarsour is the poster child for this red-green axis. She is getting leftist groups to basically push the narrative that Islam is peaceful, Islam has nothing to do with the problem, and yet from a national security standpoint, Islam has everything to do with the problem. Sharia is the blueprint by which all of these jihadi groups operate, whether it's Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, the Muslim Brotherhood, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, fill in the blank. They all say that they're Muslims waging jihad to establish an Islamic State under Sharia, and yet it is people like Linda Sarsour working with the media and groups like CARE, which is Hamas, working with the media to say that this problem has nothing to do with Islam, and it's just factually false.
It is. It's very radical. She was specifically inciting hatred and violence. If these words were coming out of any other person, we would have said, well, you know, that really overstepped the line. But coming from Linda Sarsour, you have to understand her background. This is a lady that comes from a long line of terrorists. Her family members are, as we speak, sitting in Israeli jails for conviction of terrorism. When you look at her praising in her speech at ISNA, Imam Siraj Wahaj, who was a co-conspirator in the first World Trade Center bombing in 1993. She called him her hero and her mentor.
Sarsour is rising as a spokesperson for Sharia law's gradual wedge in the U.S., ironically laying the groundwork to create no-go zones similar to those all over Europe where women aren't welcome.
Video from her security cameras gave homeowner Jennifer LeMay a glimpse of what happened to her dogs, Sirach and Rocco, Saturday night.
You see the officer coming over the fence to gain entrance to my property. He came outside. The shot was fired. Sirach wasn't even charging at him. Rocco came running out of my side door, and they hit Rocco 3 to 4 times.
LeMay says police told her the officer entered her property because he saw something of concern.
The officer claimed that he seen my back door open. which as y'all can see, I have privacy fences. How did you see my back door?
LeMay says the officer should not have fired on her dogs. She says the video shows the dog showing no aggression toward the officer.
The officer so feared for his life, but he had enough time to pick his shell casings up off my ground. He turned his back to my door where my dogs came out of and then hopped back over the fence.
LeMay says Sirach and Rocco are service dogs and help her special needs children.
These just aren't family members. They make my kids' day possible. So they make it possible for my kids to be able to function in their day-to-day life.
Both dogs have bullet fragments inside them that cannot be removed. LeMay says her interaction with police has produced more questions than answers and caused havoc in her household, especially for her daughter, who witnessed it all.
I thought, this is my last day, I think. And I said, he's very strong, very, very, very strong. And I don't know, I don't have many opportunities here. So, yeah, but thank God I'm safe. And I could run away.
Police say Sister Maria Amador's prayers were interrupted. Her life threatened Wednesday afternoon by this man inside of the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph in Prospect Heights. Video shows him shirtless, walking in somewhat aimlessly at first before heading inside church. You can see him approach Sister Maria Amador, who is Mother Superior of her convent, sitting by herself at a pew in prayer. Investigators say as he got closer, he said, "I don't believe in this because you don't help the poor." When the nun did not respond out of fear, he became agitated. As Sister Maria Amador looked around for help, she spotted a woman in another pew off camera.
I started to look at the woman, trying to say, okay, I need help. But he said, she can't help you, and I'm going to kill you.
That's when she took off running towards the altar, all the while yelling for help.
And I started to scream. The organist was practicing at that time.
The suspect quickly left, and while investigators search for this man, Sister Maria Amador is extending her compassion despite the threats made against her.
I can say, okay, I forgive you. Okay, I think maybe he's sick, maybe he needs something.
Executive producers of the film God's Not Dead donated $25,000 to replace a destroyed Ten Commandments monument in Arkansas. The 6-foot stone tablet was smashed less than a day after it was installed on the state's Capitol grounds. A state senator told reporters he had no intent to use taxpayer dollars for the new stone, and the original was paid for by private funds. $55,000 has also been raised in private donations since the monument's destruction.